The following conversation is with Steph Lee Prevost. At the time of recording, Steph was UX and CRO Manager at Specsavers. She's currently a CRO Consultant at Conversion.com, an optimization agency with clients such as Facebook, Just Eat, The Guardian, and many more. Her role at Specsavers involved ensuring users had the best experience on the website so they could successfully reach their goals with minimal frictions. This could be anything from booking an eye test to buying contact lenses or just finding an informational blog. Besides Steph's passion for behavioral science, we share a similar growth mindset, and I really admire her career journey so far. No doubt this is just the beginning, and I look forward to seeing what the future brings. In this conversation, we talk about why companies should embrace experimentation, we talk about career progression, negotiating salaries, and even overcoming our own biases. I hope you find this conversation just as insightful and fun as I did.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, and you?
Awesome. Are you in Guernsey at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in the office, yeah.
You're basically sneaking out to do this.
Yeah, no, I've done quite a few of them, so I just say it's PR for Specsavers.
True. That's a good shout. How you been?
Yeah.
You got the ugly Christmas jumper as well.
Yeah, it sings as well. If you press this button, which I'm not going to do. But yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Not too bad. And you?
I'm good. I was just saying it's been quite a while since we last spoke.
Yeah.
It's like March 2021, was it? Even earlier.
Yeah, I actually didn't realise you'd even left Curated. Yeah, I had no idea.
I know.
And then the guys are over today, a couple from the account, and I said, I've got a podcast with Iffy, and they were like, really? I was like, oh, does he not work there anymore? They were like, no. I was like, oh, okay.
That was like ages ago. Yeah, I know. It was such a like seamless transition because I went on to also do a lot of like contracting with them as well. So it never really felt like I left till I actually left. But But yeah, when we met was when you had transitioned to the e-com. You just like deployed e-com on the website.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so 2 years ago. Then.
Yeah, that's a while back. Yeah. Well, first of all, congrats for all the amazing stuff you've been doing. You've been all over my LinkedIn, and you've been doing amazing stuff. Obviously, you came super close to snatching the Young Digital Women's Award. Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, it was really cool actually. I didn't expect to win. I saw the other nominees. And I was like, oh my god, these people have done some crazy startup stuff. So I was just happy to be in the list. To be honest, I was like, how has this happened? So I'm quite guilty of just brushing achievements under the carpet and being like, no, that's just normal. That's just what we do. It's just a job.
Yeah.
And then Luke is always like, no. You've done something big here. And I'm like, oh, is it? Okay.
That's what happens though. So especially I saw one of the posts you sort of, I think you liked it or you sort of reshared it on LinkedIn. It was one with a massive sign that sort of says you have to big yourself up. You have to basically be your own boss. You have to be your own manager. It's really interesting because when you do a lot of that, it's very easy for you to sort of just brush things off. It's like, well, I'm used to doing that. That's normal. So
yeah, I think you just have to you have to PR yourself and say actually I have been doing this and I am proud of it. Because I think it's hard to get recognised if not no one's just trawling LinkedIn going, who's doing good? I'll recognise you.
True.
No one's doing that. So yeah, I think I put myself forward for that Digital Women Award, and a few people are like, really, yourself? And I'm like, yeah, well, why not?
Yeah, true.
See where I land in in the space, because they turn around, they're like, oh no, you were quite a while off of we were expected to see X, Y, and Z, then I know what I need to work on. So makes sense.
Yes. I guess that's the experimenter in you, because the only way to get true. The only way to get the result is to just check yourself out there and just see, all right, I need the validation, I need the feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing worse than just good feedback. It's I haven't learned anything, so thanks.
True. Very true. And obviously, you also got the Content Squared Award, so you actually got that. You actually won that one.
Yeah, that one was really cool.
That was sick.
The homepage was literally a pain in my side for like a year. And when I got back from traveling, they'd created that try banner. I don't know if you'd seen it on the homepage, but like the 3 call to actions in one place in all different color greens.
They sort of like do this. Segmented it off.
So like the worst thing like that you could ever imagine for UX principals. And I was like, we need to fix this like now. So yeah, it was like a year of, we did a really radical mobile test, which looked like ASOS's homepage. And that won, and that kind of grabbed the business's attention to say, look, there's stuff we could be doing here. And then it was like 3 or 4 redesign tests. I was ecstatic to be like, we have an award for it. It's validated.
Actually, it has been validated. It's not just in the data. Someone else also thinks it's good. And its content's quite as well. I mean, they're hotcake, aren't they?
Yeah, it doesn't really, the only way it gets better if Google themselves were like, this is excellent.
Yeah, true. They'll probably get you for one of their Google blog things that they do, their insights. You probably have to reach out to them as well for that, don't you?
Yeah, probably.
And I guess the final congrats is, conversion.com. So congrats.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
What's led to that?
There's quite a lot going on here. So we're planning to in-house the team by the end of next year, and I was heading for like a leadership role in that team, and I kind of realised that the higher up you get, the less in the weeds you are of things, and there is still quite a lot, I think, around CRO that I really want to learn, and there's a lot I haven't done. Like, I'd love to work for somewhere that is actually, really in the depths of personalisation, and running an experimentation program at scale. So it kind of got me thinking, like, is this really what I want, or is this just the natural progression of my role, and what is next? And then I put up a post about what I'd learned over the years of CRO and what I'd wish I'd known before I started it, and it got loads of traction on LinkedIn. Like, it just blew up, and I ended up with like 3 or 4 people messaging me like, I've got this opportunity, I want you to apply for it. And I was like, okay, I guess so. So like, went on like a roller coaster, 4 weeks, like 12 interviews, and then finally got offered the conversion
position. So random.
So I was like, it was nuts.
What did you have to get into? Like, what state of mind did you have to get into? Because that's like a proper switch. Like, just flipping from like going for a senior role and straight away you're like.
Yeah, it was really weird. And I went, like, there was a couple of people I interviewed with. So I interviewed with Snug Sofa Company, and they were looking for someone to come in and build their CRO team. And I got quite far, and I think like they looked like they were going to offer it to me. And I was like, actually, you know what? I don't want to do this again. I was like, I'm so sorry, but I've wasted your time. Like, you've asked me where I see myself in 5 years, and it's not in housing this team. Like, I could do that now. So I had to like really sit down and like discuss with like just people in my life, like where I want to be and what I want to do. And I was like, I just want to do CRO. Like, it's as simple as that. And they want, like, the more people you have reporting into you, the one-to-ones, and like, it's fine, I can do it, but it's not, it takes you out of the doing. So yeah, and then I interviewed with Conversion, and then Lean Convert. They offered me a role which sounded really cool, but they were smaller, so I wanted to be like amongst some of the best agencies out there. And then who else? Another Conversion sister company, but they're more focused on SEO, and they were starting their CRO program. And again, it was like, you'd have to build it, and I was like, no, I want someone I can learn from. Like, I want to report into someone who is like, can know, like, talk to me about the stats, talk to me about what type of test we should be running, and then I can really learn it in depth. So it's kind of how I landed there. It was nuts. Like, I was exhausted.
Well, you're going to be working with some big clients at conversion.com. I mean, it's going to be a lot of data. Like, finally, you can actually run massive scale tests. Like,
and just learn
thousands and thousands of traffic.
Yeah, I'm excited. They've got some really cool clients, and I've been asking them, like, who are going to be my clients? Who are they going to be? And they're like, we can't tell you yet. We're in loads of pitches. We don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping it'll be a mix. Like, maybe one pure play, like e-com, maybe like a lead gen, and then like a charity. Maybe that'd be good to have like a understanding of all of them. That'd be cool.
I think it's the same for me as well in terms of like my trajectory. I know when we met, I was doing I just sort of transitioned from like SEO to something like I basically coined and call it technical marketing, because it was
Yeah.
basically mixing SEO with like behavioral analysis and sprinkles of CRO, but I wasn't fully like aware of CRO. Like I didn't have the full like understanding of it, but I was already sort of applying the sort of fundamentals. And then when we
Yeah.
met and you gave me access to Content Squared and we're talking through
Yeah.
the design for the user journeys and stuff, because I think we were doing the navigation restructure and it was just it was messy, and I then started getting an understanding for CRO, and I was like, oh shit, this is what it is. So it's an actual thing. People actually do this, and I then started transitioning off SEO and started sort of embedding CRO into it and other things, because a big part of what I do is like behavioral analysis. I love it. I love the analytics and all that stuff, behavior design, and for that you need a lot of data, right? You can't just you can't do that with low traffic. And that's just the thing about agencies. And that, again, maybe we're just coming from two different sides. You've been in Specsavers for like 5 years, right? And so it's like you're done with like in-house and you won't experience something else. But I'm like the other way around. I've come from like freelancing, consulting, agency, and then I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm ready to settle down now and like find the products I care about and sort of, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's so interesting. We're on like the opposite way.
Yeah, well, like so maybe I'll definitely be reaching out to you to ask for some political advice, definitely.
Yeah, I'll be reaching out, be like, how do I tell a client they suck?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah, true. I'll say that comes down to your agency's culture, right? We'll see how. Yeah, definitely. So, but why didn't you? Because obviously, with your experience and like all the years of amazing work you've been doing, you could have gone freelance or like consultant. Like, so why did you choose to go agency?
I've thought about it, and it is something I've thought about for the future, but there's some stuff like in-depth, like implementation of CRO tools. I've never done that. So I think I'd need that skill set to be able to go freelance, and also client-facing skills. Like I never I've not been to a pitch process. I've always been on the other side of it. So I'd like to understand how that works. It tends to be like more the technical side of things, and also only having used Qubit and Kibo and Google Analytics, I'd quite like to understand the rest of the tools and be able to make recommendations. Like actually, like yes, that tool is cheaper, but this one's better. It's actually the mid range, like blah blah blah. Which I think
like Amplitude, yeah. Have you used it?
Like what? Sorry.
Amplitude.
No, I've not used it.
I think you might come across that. Definitely, a lot of people do use it. It's really, really good for like user journeys. Much more in depth. Definitely.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. To be fair, by the time you come out of this, you're gonna be an absolute beast, because you've got your product knowledge, you've got your agency knowledge. Again, like you're right, the pitching, all that whole stuff. But that's one thing I definitely learned a lot from Curated, was just learning the whole sort of client facing, the whole pitching, all that whole stuff. Because then when I went off and like did my own solo stuff, it did come in handy a lot, like being able to apply those stuff together. So I think, to be fair, in a couple of years, I'm going to be hearing about you launching your own agency. So I'm not even surprised. Yeah. Well, I was going to just pick your brain then in regards to CRO. Obviously, you're a CRO and UX manager, so those are big words. And for most people, they don't really know what that even means. I mean, to be honest, not many companies, when you think about it, experiment or do any sort of conversion research. So yeah, I just want to start with, just basic plain. For anyone with no knowledge of CRO, how would you describe it and its benefits?
I guess I always describe it, like when I'm doing inductions, as like, I always say it's a 50-50 test normally. So you could go on a website and I could go on a website and we could see a slightly different experience. And then the key is that you can measure the difference of that. And yes, I mean, sometimes it will cause a positive increase. There's always a goal we want you to do on a website. And normally that test is making you perform that goal or encouraging you to do so. So yeah, it could be anything from, like, you see on booking.com, they have quite a few messages saying like only 5 available. That is a CRO test. Or, a a banner that is different for you than it is to me with a product, that's probably a CRO test. So yeah, it's basically just improving the journey and kind of changing the way that you interact with the website for the brand's benefit. And then measuring the difference. And then if it wins, then you roll it out, and that becomes what the website looks like. And then you just do iterative testing after that. And I guess it saves brands money, because quite often you could have an idea that seems like a winner, and when you actually test it, it's just something completely different to what you expected. We've had multiple tests here where you would just think it works. Like our users demand to understand the cost of an eye test up front. When we add the cost of an eye test up front to our website, it decreases conversion. So you have that play off between conversion or doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So it can save you money. I guess it just reduces that risk, because that completely makes sense to do that. And yet, your conversion goes down. So
yeah, the thing again with that is actually, why do you think many people are not doing that then?
What do you mean?
Like experimenting and applying CRO principles.
I think it's a scary subject. I think a lot of people are kind of afraid to dive in, because if you get it wrong, it can be really, really wrong.
Yeah.
But I think the key is that, like, a lot of people don't think it's something you can learn, but it is. Like, there's not a school for CRO.
True.
You can learn on the job when you're doing it, as long as you're kind of, really up to date with what should be done, like in terms of the statistics and the measurement and how you inform your hypothesis. Then you've just got to give it a go, and you'll learn from doing it. That's the whole point of CRO, right? You're learning, so why not learn whilst you're doing it? But I think a lot of brands are just kind of scared to invest in it, and maybe don't see the value in it, because a lot of places want to see like winning tests, and then they'll invest more in it.
True.
If they see losing tests, they don't really see anything like any value in it, I think.
How did you get into it then, seeing that there's no school for CRO?
I joined Specsavers 3 days after leaving school, started in the CRM team, and then eventually left to go into digital, and I was doing SEO and content. And our head of digital at the time had worked with Qubit before, and he onboarded Qubit, quite literally handed me like the relationship and went, go figure out what this is and what it does.
Sick.
And I was like, okay, I guess so. So I spent the first 2 years. I mean, it's been hard because there's not many people in the business you can learn from around it. But so grateful for the opportunity. There's no way I'd have got that opportunity in a different brand, I don't think. So yeah, it was pretty nuts.
Definitely chucking yourself in the deep end forces you to be as resourceful as possible. And I've noticed that as well. I say this a lot to my friends and to even clients I work with. It's like, you realize how important your network is, because when you have questions to ask, you don't want to be, it's like you look around, it's like you don't want to be feel like you're alone. So it's really good to curate a network that that's of value, I guess. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And you are obviously CRO and UX manager. And one thing I've noticed is, actually I really realized this, is like I've noticed more people that do UX tend to move to a CRO eventually if they want to do something more technical. And it makes sense, because UX tends to have that sort of heuristic process as well. It has a very sort of psychology embedded process that is like scientific. And that's essentially what CRO is. It's just CRO embeds it with technical stuff like data analysis and even SEO to a degree, in terms of like, getting things optimized and getting things to work. So do you feel like, the UX side came first, the CRO came first? Like, how do you feel that for yourself?
I think so. CRO did come first, so UX was added in like afterwards, but actually we were doing it without knowing, if that makes sense. So I definitely think UX informs CRO. So obviously to have a grounded hypothesis, you need the qual and the quant data. So without that UX research, you don't have a CRO test that's really that valid to run. So I think they go hand in hand. I think in the future as well, it could just be a combined discipline, because UX design is also useful for CRO tests as well. Like, it's all amalgamated together realistically. So I reckon it could fall under just like an optimization umbrella eventually. Yeah,
I think everything will go under optimization, because I think what I've noticed as well with digital marketing is like it's fragmented into like smaller niches, but then eventually when it comes to implementing it, let's say like a CRO manager can actually find themselves doing SEO to some degree, or a CRO manager can find themselves doing UX to some degree. So it's like all these little fragments, you can just, I think they'll eventually compile into just one big thing. And then, now we've got AI and like, computers doing stuff. So you might just have one manager just like overseeing like tons of different experiments and different things that are going on.
Yeah, I think so. And you see the trend change over the years, right? So when I first started, you were just a digital like marketing manager and you kind of dabbled in a bit of everything. And then over the years, slowly, people started to specialize in key subjects. But I think it will, flip the other way where actually you're not necessarily a specialist and you can kind of do everything. Maybe not like organic and acquisition, but yeah, I think if it's coming under like, if it's on-site optimization, I think that could be kind of the future of that role.
Yeah, definitely. That's one I see.
I'd love to see we talk a lot about like how companies are structured here, and I'd love to see a company that's structured not in like, the product they work in or the category or the specialism, like a CRM team, whatever. I'd love to see them structured in like the customer need. Like, what are you servicing?
Around the customer, yeah.
I think that would be really, really cool. So it is truly customer focused. And yeah, you could do CRM and you could do digital and offline media, whatever, but you're servicing this need in particular for this customer. And that is your focus. I think that would be quite cool.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing I've noticed. I was going to actually ask you this question. When it comes to like refining or using existing data to refine customer personas, is that something you do, or do you have a process for that? Because honestly speaking, you are right. I mean, the more data we have, the better we can understand the customers. But I feel like we're in this sort of really like shaky point right now where we have tons of data, but we don't quite know how to pick out those valuable insights. We have too much data, but we don't really know what is useful within that or how to extract it. How have you been able to do that yourself?
So it's hard. We've got two sets of personas. So we have one that's used for CRM predominantly, and we have one that is about kind of the wider marketing, like wider customer base, and they're more about like the mindset of the customer. But that was kind of done by our insights team. We've not really applied them online yet because we just don't know enough data about you online. We've got what we know about you from your Google account and your cookies, so we don't have like a login. So we have like pools of data. We certainly can't connect to them, but I think there's probably quite a lot of legacy brands that are like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to meet someone from a brand that has genuinely got built out personas they are applying to their website for one-to-one personalization. Like, I don't know if that exists.
Sixth Sense. So let 6 Sense.
Yeah.
It's a crazy expensive enterprise tool. You might actually come about it on conversion.com, but they use AI to basically and customer data platforms. So they basically aggregate data from like everywhere. So if you put like an email or something, so they can look into that email, like obviously if it's a work email, they can then look through LinkedIn and everything and find out personas about that customer, the company, the brand, or whatever it is. But
yeah,
it's a crazy tool. It's really interesting. I haven't used it quite yet. Soon I will do, and I can give you better feedback about it. But there are some crazy tools like that are able to give better insights using data. But at the moment, I find like it's mostly just I'm just having to do it myself. It's almost like manual. Obviously, gone are the days when Google Analytics was the one-stop shop for it. That was a very long time ago. But now you have to look. Yeah, just look everywhere. I think that I feel like it's become a process, and I'm starting to understand it better. So hopefully, sometime in the future, I can come up with a framework to do it. But at the moment, it's still very like messy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's you've just got too much to bring it all together sometimes.
So, well, when you were learning, or I guess now that you know better, for someone who is sort of like learning CRO, let's say they've taken a CXL course or some random course somewhere on CRO, and they've got the theoretic knowledge, but how do they apply this? How do you go about gaining experience and eventually then landing a job in CRO?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are a few CRO junior roles out there. I've definitely seen, I think, the likes of Dentsu hiring for some, which I think, yeah, starting out in a company like that, you're definitely going to get the knowledge that you need. But there's definitely, like, don't be afraid to look at roles that maybe aren't just CRO focused. So sometimes you'll see like a digital manager role, and there'll be a bit of CRO, and there's a bit of this and a bit of that. Do that, and then kind of scope the role to be more of what you want it to be. So I think if your company is empowering you to do the role and empowering you to scope like your PDP and find out what your strengths are, then you can absolutely do that. Particularly like analytics roles. I think if there's if there's CRO within that company and you're in analytics, put your hand up and say, I'd like to help measure those tests, or I'd like to help inform those hypotheses. But I guess it depends on your brand, but certainly like here, they just say, own your own development, like do what you need to do, tell us what you want to be doing. And obviously within reason. I can't put my hand up and be like, I want to be marketing director. But yeah.
You probably get fired. No, I hear that. And obviously in that case then, I think a big part of it, like we said earlier, is like embracing experimentation, right? So again, for yourself, I know you even mentioned, like you test it out in real life, where you go out and like you experiment things. But I feel like it's massively, impacted my mindset. Like I'm literally constantly experimenting everything, because I'm like naturally curious. So even with the frameworks I know now and learned, it's just insane. Like I'm constantly going out there, like just like testing things out and just seeing if they work or not. Do you feel like it's the same for yourself? Do you feel like it's impacted you that way?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's maybe a lot more skeptical of things as well. Like I've always said I'm a realist. My boss will tell you I'm a pessimist because he just, But I'm like, no, I'm a realist. I see things as they are. But yeah, I think it does make you more kind of question things in life, and also, like I guess see past things quite a lot, and like for problem solving as well. It does affect like the way you think about things, and also just making sure that you gather like all of your resources before you make a judgment. Like True. I guess before the role, if someone said to me, what do you think of this? I'd give them like an opinion instantly. Then I'm like, oh, actually, let me think about it and I'll come back to you, rather than, well, this is immediately what I know, especially knowing about like cognitive biases and stuff. I think you're a lot
that is the biggest one.
Aware.
Yeah.
It's hard. I've explained like a couple of cognitive biases to my friends, and there's always one friend that's like, oh, I don't get affected by those. You do, True, and so do True. I, even though I know about them. Like, that's just the rules of life.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think cognitive biases are the biggest ones, because I also read Thinking Fast and Slow, and
yes.
It's a great research by Kinnaman and Tversky, man. Amazing research, because a lot of this stuff is stuff that I would claim that I knew, but it's just like having the actual research to back it up makes it next level, man. Definitely. I think even now as well, but I think what makes it good is that I do pay attention to those biases, at least like, even when I fall prey to it, I'm like, oh shit, I did that. And I can then go back. And I found journaling to be very useful for that. So I journal sort of daily, and reading back sometimes you can then see how you were thinking and then sort of review it. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, the other day we were sat at the desks because we're all in the office still, and there's like 10 of us sat around, and there was an announcement to go and see something, like it was a food thing that the office had put on, and a couple of people got up and they were like, oh, no one else is getting up, should we go now, should we wait?
Go, yeah.
And then a couple more people got up, and then everyone collectively got up, and I was like, this is social proof at play. Like, this is it 101, like right here. I love those experiments.
And you can see it, you can call it out. But then don't you see, like, I don't know, sometimes it's like playing devil's advocate. It's like, well, we are basically exploiting these biases now.
Yes,
We're basically exploiting them, because we understand that humans obviously have these inbuilt biases. So we're like, how can we exploit it on these different levels? Have you ever thought about that? And how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I have actually. So earlier in the year, like obviously COVID makes you question everything, and I had a bit of like an existential crisis of like, what am I doing? why am I doing this? Why am I tricking people into doing this thing online? Like I felt really like I was manipulating people online.
Well, you are,
I kind of sat back.
you are doing that.
You are. Well, yeah, to a level you are. That is what you're doing as a job. And I kind of sat back and I was like, what, is this what I want to be doing? And I realised that actually I think I do enjoy it. And if it's for a brand like Specsavers, they are, although they're there to make money, they are there to ultimately help you. Like they are genuinely giving you a vision and you're hearing back. So I think I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of drew the line, like when I was looking around at roles, there was a gambling agency and I was like,
yeah,
you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I don't think. So I think I'd be quite, it questions your morals, I think, sometimes. And you do have to like draw a line with yourself and be like, right, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot. But I think the best explanation I gave to myself was, well, quite simply, it's a tool. And this is what I love about, like, you know, humans and our evolution and knowledge, is that at every single stage we empower ourselves with new tools, and we cannot run away or be shy from that tool. And you just made a really good point there. You've got gambling agencies hiring CROs. So if you're not the one doing it, someone else will. So I take on this approach of learning as much as possible, so I can then share that knowledge with other people.
Yeah.
That's like, well, and I think that's why I do it. Maybe that's my way to, you know, make myself sleep at night, because like, well, I want to empower people with as much of this knowledge as possible, so that they can also make, you know, cognitively balanced decisions as well. Just like, you know, so they're not as prone to this thing, so at least they know what they're getting into. Because if I'm not doing this, someone else is, you know, and maybe not everyone thinks the way I do. So
yeah, I wonder if there'll come a day, because obviously, I mean, there's loads on like Netflix about social media and targeting is terrible and they're stalking you as an individual. I wonder if one day people will become more educated about what you're doing as a CRO like practitioner, and there'll be like uproar about it, you know?
Yeah, I think in that case, it's gonna just be like digital marketing, like how it's just constantly evolving, right? So I think what's gonna happen is the digital marketing spectrum is always trying to find a way to connect the user, right, to the product.
Yeah.
So I think that's essentially what digital marketing is. It's like, well, the goal is to connect you to this product. So we're gonna try, you know, knocking on your door. That doesn't work. All right, we're gonna put letters in your door. That doesn't work. We're gonna target you with ads. That doesn't work. All right, we're gonna use CRO. That doesn't work. We're gonna use SEO. This doesn't work. We use email. You know what I mean? So I find like it's always evolving. So a time will come, definitely, especially now. Actually, I don't use social media as much as I used to before. So I think there's a general move, and it's not just myself. I know many people who also like drastically cut down their social media, not necessarily because of some Netflix documentary, but because they physically feel like it's taking their time and it's affecting their mental health, right? So so I think, you know, humans were like, you know, we're smart. We're gonna always learn and adapt and evolve. But I guess the part that I play is in like, you know, how do I empower people to make smarter decisions? It's like, how can I teach you these things that I know, or these things that are useful for you to be able to make a more cognitively balanced decision. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it.
What was it like for you then, the lockdown? Like, obviously you didn't have to come into Guernsey, did you? You worked from home, right?
Yes, I work from home, but I'm based in Guernsey. So we are actually really lucky. So we got away with it really lightly. But they were really, really strict because we have an elderly population. So they were just, and one hospital, they were really, really aware that it could have gone quite badly for us. So we were in lockdown 1 and we had a lockdown 2, but it was like nowhere near as long as the UK. I mean, we've been back in the office like full time since March this year. So we've been really, really lucky. I found it all right. I quite liked working from home, to be honest. The worst thing about it was the internet connection, and my other half couldn't work because he's a mechanic, so he was just by my shoulder all the time. What are you doing? And I'm like, concluding a CRO test. And he's like, oh, it looks boring. And I'm like, oh, go away.
True.
So that was probably like the worst part. Was like, I'm sat here working hard and you're sat there getting paid to play video games. Yeah. It's just not fair.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I mean, that's the thing, because even during lockdown as well, I had to move as well, because I realized for the first time, like, I don't know how I didn't even notice that the space just wasn't like conducive. Like, it just wasn't big enough. It just wasn't the space I wanted to be in. So I think it was a really interesting time, like you said, having that time to like rethink and pay attention to things, right, that's happening around you. Yeah, really interesting.
Definitely. I think I know so many people that like have just questioned their entire like life choices, and there's so many people that have just, you know, they've been accountants all their lives because here finance industry is huge, and they've just turned around and gone, not doing this anymore. Thanks, but nope. And they've just gone and done something they love.
Become a farmer or something.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, honestly, so many people have career change. There's like a massive thing on LinkedIn, and quite a few studies going to right now about the resignation pandemic and how like so many people are just handing in their notice because they're questioning like who they're working for, what their job is, like their purpose in life, like if there's bigger things in life what they should be doing. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think there's going to be like a couple of years of just change for everything.
Therefore, it's like a shift in like values and everything, because definitely same happened to me. It's like, you know, rethinking everything. Did like spend some time on my own, you know, start journaling, start reading, start writing, all that stuff, and really like just adapt your mindset to. Well, that's the thing. I think that's the beautiful thing about humans, is like we're constantly adapting. So I think that's great. I think that's really good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, shifting society for sure.
What tools do you use, and you know, are there any interesting ones you've come across?
Yeah, so here we use Kibo, which is formerly Monetate, which is the experimentation tool. So I've not used it a lot because we've just onboarded them like 2 months ago, but they're really, really powerful for kind of the way they set up experiments is done in like a who, what, why, when way, which really gets you thinking about the hypothesis and whether it's really, truly like worth testing and whether it's really, truly thought out. And they've also got a really powerful multi-arm bandit area of the tool as well, which is really interesting to me. So they're quite cool. They won our pitch process overall. So, I mean, obviously we think they're great. And then, Google Analytics, obviously we have 360. We're quite lucky. So we've got quite a few good features in there. And Hotjar we still use for surveys, but we have superseded it with Content Square in the UK market.
Yeah.
So, I really liked them. And when we saw them, we saw Decibel as well, and we really did like them too. But we didn't feel like we were ready for them really. And they had this quite cool thing where they score pages on the usability, made up of loads of different metrics. But it was just like the time you'd need to put into that tool. You'd need like a person just sat there like looking at it, and we were just not ready for that. Whereas Content Square was like Hotjar supercharged and pretty much Decibel, but not quite Decibel. I mean, maybe they've swapped now. But yeah, we've been so pleased with that tool, and like the Chrome add-on you get with it, so you can like live zone any page on your site. So if you're sat there with someone where they're like, I think we should move this up there, blah blah blah, you can immediately say, well, let's look at the metrics, and then you just look at the live data with them, and you can show them in a really visually digestible way why that shouldn't happen, which has been really useful here, particularly in like meetings where someone's saying, move this up the homepage. It's always a point of contention, right? Can't remember what else. I think, Figma is our kind of design file, which Wonderman Thompson, our UX agency, used.
I was going to say, everyone uses Figma. I mean, even myself, I use Figma. I won't even call myself a designer, but I think it's pretty much like a no-brainer tool for every CRO.
Yeah, I think it's just everywhere, isn't it? And we've used a couple of project planning tools. We've not nailed it, to be honest. I'm quite excited to use new ones at conversion.com to see how they differ. So we've had Asana, we've had Kanban, we've had Planner, and right now we're using Workfront, which is an Adobe thing, which works, but it's not very pretty. I don't really like it, but they've rolled it out to the whole of marketing here, so you kind of have to use it. But when I go to Conversion, I know they're using Asana and another tool as well to like plan their work amongst their consultants. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think the thing about project management as well, I think this comes down into even like personal life, I guess, or the way you actually manage your own things. Because once upon a time, I used Asana, I've used Trello, I've used actual proper project management tools. I've used like Jira, all the lot. And perhaps back then I was managing like other clients, like I was freelancing. I had so many other clients I was working on. But I think maybe it's just a pandemic thing again. I just like Marie Kondoed my entire life and got rid of all these things. And literally right now, on a personally, I just use Todoist, and
Yeah.
it's literally so simple. And it's like I just write my list, and I just get it's very like clear, simple, beautiful UI, and it's just like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still like on a notepad and pen as well, like to-do list, because I don't always want my laptop in a meeting with me.
True.
And although I might have like our work planning thing on my phone, I don't want to be making notes on my phone because it's not people aren't always aware that's what you're doing. I'm always just still a notepad and pen kind of person. And then if I need to put it into our like planning tool, I will. Or if it's a quick task, then you get it done. But yeah, I think my favorite was Asana. I made an Asana board for my traveling. So I had a plan for every country we went to with a ticket for each thing we were doing, and like it stored all of our tickets,
Asana is
all
really
our hotel
good.
bookings.
Asana is really, really robust. It's really, really good. I like it. Did you use the board view for it?
Yeah, board view with all the pictures of where we were going, dates, everything. And then I just gave like our parents access and was like, now you'll know, and you can even communicate with us through this if you need to. But yeah, I think I showed a few people and they were like, this is awesome. And then I showed someone, they were like, what? You're way too organized. Like, calm down. And I was like, oh.
Well, you have to be though. You have to be. I mean,
yeah, I was proud of it. I still am.
Have you made it public so other people can download it and use it?
No, I haven't. Although other people that have been traveling since, they've been like, "Can I grab your board off you?"
Yeah, you can share it and put it to the Asana repo or something.
Yeah. If you ever need an Australia to New Zealand and into Asia plan, I've got one.
We've got one sorted, definitely. Actually, if you send a link, I'll put it in the notes of this.
All
right. Well, of course. I mean, it's so key to be organized. I know now it's sort of like a running joke, but everyone's like, I'm busy, but I'm actually genuinely busy, and I find like the only way to, I guess, to connect with people and still have a life is to be organized. Like I use Calendly basically, even with my friends. It's like, well, if we need to have a chat, because I've got quite a lot of international friends. And if you want to have a call, you can't just ring me like right now, right? So it's like, so we need to actually plan it. And I found like planning is so key. And it's also affected my career as well, because I feel like the more organized I am, the more I'm able to actually, like I said, not just plan for now, but I'm able to actually forecast as well to a high degree of certainty, right?
Yeah.
And you're smiling away. I'm guessing you also agree with this, right?
I'm smiling because you're optimizing your life.
That's what you're doing. Yes, you are. So how do you feel this has actually played a part? Maybe not just the planning itself, but like what things you reckon has played a part into you getting into a leadership role?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say I know for sure, but I don't really know. I guess I've always been really driven. Like I'm quite self-motivated. I'm not competitive. I'm just always like focusing on what I'm doing and if I'm better than last year and if I'm learning. I've always enjoyed learning as well. Like I loved school and I loved learning, but I hated all like the clicky, groupy side of stuff. I just wanted to be there and I wanted to do what I needed to do. And I've always been that way. So I wanted a job where I was always learning. And when I found CRO, I knew that would be it because you are. Yeah, and I guess leadership wise, I've just like pushed in my position to be where I am today. Like they talk about owning your own development, and I think I just really do that. Like I'm always going, I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm listening to this podcast. The amount of cognitive bias books I've read is actually obscene. I should stop reading them. It's a bit of an addiction.
Once you open that kind of worms, man, it's yeah. I know
you just can't stop. And now I'm into like neuromarketing as well, and I'm going.
I started with neuroscience. Yeah, I started with neuroscience and like biohacking and all that. And I've come the other way because I came from the more hard science side, and then I'm now merging it with marketing. And I think the link for me with marketing was behavior design. I'm obsessed with behavior design right now. You have so much power when you learn this stuff, right? Like you can actually speak to someone and almost like just sort of game the interaction. I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's really, really good knowledge.
Yeah, it's nuts. I just like understanding because I've always been like, why are you doing this thing? And now you can understand that why, and
Yes.
like why people are the way they are and why they act. And actually, I think one of the most interesting books I've read isn't necessarily a cognitive bias book, but it was kind of along those lines. It's the Psychopath Test, and it is literally about the test they give people to decide whether they are a psychopath or not. And John Ronson wrote it, and he investigates basically like a number of like areas where people are put away because they're psychopaths, and can psychopaths be reformed, and what are they? And then he investigates like psychopath in leadership, and it's like there's obscene stats around how many people that are like leaders, like presidents and people in parliament, are actually genuinely psychopaths, because you have to be like a certain level of like, you lack the empathy to almost get to where,
able to do that. Yeah,
to get to where you need to be. Like, you have to almost trample on someone to get to be in that position, which is nuts to me.
Yeah, that's one thing. Actually, that's one of the biggest reasons why I got into neuroscience in the first place, because I was trying to personally understand a lot of things myself. So I research a lot of, I do a lot of like biohacking research. If it's like anything from like fasting or like cold showers or breathing techniques, all these different things are sort of like just to hack your own body. And it's quite interesting, because I said I want to do that because I want to understand myself, so that I know at least to some degree when I'm doing something, and I can be like, hold myself accountable for it. Because there are a lot of people who, like you said, they genuinely are psychopaths, and they're doing this stuff because they just they just cannot control it. Like, this is just who they are. But it's true, like, you have to be that certain level of psychopath, I guess, to be able to achieve, to be able to work on things on a macro level. Because then you stop looking at people as individuals, you start looking at things as components and systems, right? And then the humanity sort of goes away from it.
Humanity, exactly. They become a number in your life.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
I mean,
crazy.
But again, though, on the sort of coming back to the human side of things, one thing from my experience when I went freelance, I worked with a lot of startups and businesses, and of like 70-80% of them were female founders. And one thing I noticed there was there's a lot of bias, right? And this is actually one thing I want to talk to you about, because you're someone who is smashed it on the career front. And of course, but it makes sense, because behavior has a lot to do with it. Obviously, you're sort of self-motivated and all, and you're just like, you're driven, but not many people are. And not many people have that mindset. So I know I told you about this already, it's sort of the priming effects, right? And you see this a lot within, like, especially women in tech and business. So how have you been able to sort of overcome these biases, especially as a woman, because the priming effect basically is driven by society, by the media. Like, it's like, oh, you're a woman, you can only do this, or you just see this image of what a woman is, and you grow up with that, and that can affect you. So how have you been able to, like, sort of, is that something you've experienced yourself? Have you been able to come across it?
Yeah, I think I guess I'd start, like, my mum is really kind of a person where she's like, you should never have to rely on anyone but yourself in your life. And that's kind of what I've grown up with. And I think that is probably what's driven me to be so independent, and so like, I'm doing my own thing. This is my path. This is where I want to be. End of story. And she's always been really empowering and supportive. And I think the same kind of came through when I moved into the digital team. I had a really, really empowering female manager, and like, she was completely against the norms of life. Like, you grow up, especially in small town Guernsey, thinking that you need to do a certain thing in a certain order at a certain age. And actually, she was like the polar opposite. She was like, go do this, go make a lateral move, do this, do that. You don't have to have like career progression that just goes straight up. You live in another country, go do this, go do that. Like, you don't have to settle down, blah, blah, blah. And she kind of changed my outlook on life, to be honest. Like, I hold a lot of that year in my life, like, to her, to say, actually, you really kind of made me think about, what do you want in life, and you don't have to be doing what other people are doing. So I think it comes down to like meeting someone that is going to show you that. If you're always in that zone of like, women should do this and men should do that, then you probably will stay there unless you start kind of reading and educating yourself around it. I think having role models in my life that are very much like, go do what you want to do. Like, my older sister is becoming a lawyer, and she's just like, she's been doing it from scratch, like, not at university, like, while she's working, and she's just like so headstrong on doing that she's kind of shown me like that's how you also need to be, and it's how I try and show like my little sister what she should be doing. You know, she's choosing her GCSEs at school. She's like, is it okay for me to do this subject? Should I do PE? It's a bit of a boys subject. Like, it's not a boys subject. Do whatever you want to do. Like, and you just have to start there. So yeah, it's interesting. But I do think it's changing.
It is, yeah.
But I don't think, I just don't think it's changing fast enough.
It's not. And this is the thing, actually. I think you nailed it in terms of like, you know, confirming what I think as well. Mentors. It's great to have good mentors. And I think, and this is what I've said to many people. It's like, you know, reach out to mentors, and especially right now, we're in the age of like, you know, we've got LinkedIn. Like the worst that they can say is no. Like, reach out to amazing people that you look up to. It's like,
I think there's this weird like unconscious thing where women just don't necessarily think they're good enough for something. Like, I've definitely experienced that. Like, I never ever thought I'd be capable of what I'm doing today. Like, I'd left school, had you sat me down and said, in X amount of years' time, this will be you, I'd have laughed. I'd have said, no way, I'm not going to achieve that. Definitely not. And whether that's because I'm a woman or whether it's because I'm, you know, from a small island, I don't know. But certainly, even when I was interviewing, I was looking at roles and going, oh, there's a few things on here I can't
especially
do.
with jobs. A lot of women end up going to like junior roles as well. It's like, why are you constantly going towards junior roles? Like, why don't you? Yeah, it's like that thing of not being able to, I guess, see your value or correctly assess it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like, as a woman, you definitely have to learn your worth and state your worth. And I think you learn that through experience. Like, when I was offered the role at Conversion, I was literally like, are you serious? Like, you're actually offering this to me? What? You know, and that's not how you should feel. You should feel like, yes, I definitely have earned this position. Yes. That's correct that you're offering this, but it's nuts. And I think, you definitely do learn it. I think maybe women just learn it later in life, or maybe it's that role model that teaches you. I'm not sure, but definitely it's something that I've learned over the last probably 2 years.
No, I agree with you though. It is changing, and I guess the more we understand generally what these biases are, and the more we're able to connect to each other and share knowledge, like you said, you know, if it's mentoring or just experiences, I think that would definitely lead to a more rapid shift, because that's the world I'd love to see. Definitely, that's definitely what I would love to see. And you know, I really appreciate that, because I get so lost a lot of the time when I'm having these conversations with people, and like I feel so bad because I'm such a problem solver. I was like, I want to help you, but I can't quite like help you in that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know what you mean though. There's one of the girls that's in my team, I'm very much trying to instill into her, like, she's going to finish her uni degree next year, and she's been at Specsavers 5 years. I'm going to her, you know, you're really good at UX. You really are. Like, it's not just because, you know, Specs have been able to empower you to do this. It's because you actually have done the learning, you've done the work to get there, and you do deserve, you know, X, Y, and Z at the end of this. I'm just trying to kind of teach her that actually it's okay to ask for what you want, and it is okay to ask for your worth. So I think society got in this really weird place where people were grateful they had jobs and they didn't feel like they could ask for anything. But the job market's huge now. Ask for it. Like, you know, you get what you're worth.
Yeah, it's flipped now, because there's definitely a big demand now, because it's the employees now that are now, like, you know, that are now the ones that are in demand, right? People need staff. People need staff.
Exactly. I'm getting kicked out of this room. I'm really sorry.
It's all right.
But exactly. So
we can round up soon, because I know you've probably got quite a lot of stuff to do as well.
Yeah, I could just move slightly. Try and find a seat that no one's sat in.
And hopefully some other time as well, when it's not when you're not working. I mean, I really just enjoy picking your brain on this, because I know there's so much more that we can obviously discuss and share value in. I guess another thing I want to ask, very related to the previous point, is in regards to understanding and acknowledging your value, how do you go around negotiating the right salary? Or at least one that you feel, do you know what, I'm proud of this?
Yeah, I guess for me, I've never been one to kind of ask for more. I've always just wanted to be paid fairly, you know, to my counterparts, whether they're male or female.
So how do you know, though,
skills
in this, especially right now in the market, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to know.
I've looked around quite a lot on LinkedIn because some people will publish what they're asking, and there's some studies around digital expertise and stuff, but I think it's just kind of saying, like, when I interviewed, I said I'd like, between X and X, and I'm not accepting less than that. And if that's just where I stand. And I think if anyone was to say, oh, well, we'd offer you less, then I wouldn't want to work for a company like that because they don't see your worth. I think it's just knowing what is fair, and if it's not fair, if you find out later down the line, actually, I know you shouldn't talk about salary, but people do. If you find out later down the line that you're not being paid fairly, then it's having kind of the guts to raise it.
But why shouldn't you talk about salary? I don't know. I think that's a really weird clause.
I don't know. I don't know why companies. I do know why companies say it's because they pay people unfairly.
Yeah.
Because they don't want you talking about it. That's exactly why. But
yeah,
I think if a company is paying people fairly and correctly, why is it an issue to talk about it? It's companies that aren't doing the right thing that want to hide it.
Yeah. And what about in that very sort of transitioning period? So let's say you've come from a role, say for example, you've been paid like 20 grand, in your first role. Yep. And you've put in the work, you've learned a lot, you've worked for like 2-3 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then you've then gone to the point where you are, all right, now I want to be paid 40 grand, right? I know it's a huge job, that's double. But then you've got that imposter syndrome type of thing going on. It's like, it's like, is it okay? Like, am I asking the right thing? And then even when you actually ask the question, it's like, you know what I mean? Maybe I want to retract and go back. Like, it's like sticking to your guns. That is another bit that's quite,
I know what you mean. I think one of the things that helped me quite a lot was actually the interview process and being offered like a salary that I was like, hang on a minute, am I worth this? Earlier this year when I was quite unhappy and I was looking to move, I didn't end up moving, I ended up staying, but it really woke me up to say, oh, actually there is, you are worth more. And I think doing that kind of process of where do you land in the industry, if you're looking at kind of, even if you're not applying, if you're just looking at job descriptions and going, could I do this job? Am I qualified to do it? If so, yes, then that is probably the salary you need to be looking at. Because a lot of people just won't research. They just won't, their employer will add on more and more stuff throughout the years. And, you might get a report here and a report there and a report here. And you don't ask for more, or you get, a nominal increase. But then when you actually benchmarked, it's different, completely different. If you went out and got that job, it would be different too. So I think it's not being afraid to actually do your research. Ask for what you want. And if they're not prepared to give you what you want, then you need to be learning and earning. That's what I say. True. And if you're not getting them, then you should go.
True. That's a really good, I like that. Learning and earning. Always. Mm-hmm. It's an iterative process, isn't it?
Exactly. And, people always say it's not all about the money, but it's a value exchange. You're not working to not make money, right? Mm-hmm. You're working to make money, and they're employing you for you to make them money. Mm-hmm. So why are people afraid to talk about it?
Very true. Very true. I agree with that. I like that. And I guess so. In your journey right now, what resources have you used? What blogs? What podcasts? What knowledge bases or publications?
I mean, I'm a big fan of CXL. If anyone looks at my LinkedIn, they'll definitely know that.
Likewise, I love those guys, man. They're really, really good.
Yeah, really, really good. So their blog is great. Experimentation Nation is really good. Their articles they send through their emails, really, really great. All their podcasts are good too. So just listening to other people in the industry and what they're doing.
Well, you were on it as well.
Yes. And books like Decoded. The Choice Factory is really good by Richard Shotton. If you're just getting into behavioural biases and you want quite an easy read, that's what got me into it. Don't Make Me Think. We've mentioned it. The classic. I think books, podcasts. Be all over LinkedIn. You just will gain the knowledge. It's everywhere. The Baymard Institute. Yeah. Nielsen Norman Group.
Yes, those guys as well.
Read, and consume. That's it.
All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you too long then. I can see, obviously, you're in the office. You've got lots of stuff to do. Probably. But yeah, the last question I usually ask most people and everyone, which is more of, it's more of an existential question to a degree. It's like, if you had all the resources that you need, Yeah, no constraints, no commitments, no responsibilities to worry about jobs, all that stuff. And you had the right environment to finally do the things that truly bring you fulfillment, what would you do?
Interesting. I think I'd do like 3 or 4 different things. I don't think I'd have one set thing to be doing.
What would it be?
I'd definitely be in Queenstown in New Zealand because that is my favourite place on this earth, and I love exercising. So I'd probably, be doing some kind of sup or weightlifting.
Nice.
Whether I'm getting paid for it or not, I don't mind. Jewelry making, silversmithing, I love that.
Oh, awesome.
And I'd definitely be doing some stuff around behavioural science and maybe some studies into how the brain works, and also using it for good. So like the government uses behavioural science to get more people to sign up to organ donation and stuff like that. I'd love to be involved in kind of
interesting
shifting mindsets in a way that is going to help humanity.
That's really good. No, thank you for that. It's really, really awesome catching up, and thanks so much for the insights.
Yeah, cool. That sounds good. Yeah, happy to catch up whenever.
Definitely. Awesome. Have a great day then.
You too. See ya.
Bye-bye.